Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us at the My Money Workshop Claim Your Power event. Before we begin, please note that you all are muted. You can unmute yourself to speak at any point, but please do remember to mute yourself again. We are, apologies because I'm letting people in at the same time, but if you have any questions, please include them in the chat box and we'll get to them as best we can, or we'll answer them at the end of the event. If you're having technical issues, just let us know in the chat and we'll try, either Marisol, Shweta, or myself, we'll try to connect or help you with that. And then we'll also be sharing a recording of this event as well as the slides after we are done. My name is Janeda Diaz, and Marisol, if you could get to the second slide. Great, thank you. I was seeing it just on the screen, but no worries. My name is Janeda Diaz, and I'm the Executive Director of My Money Workshop. We are joined today by our volunteer instructor, Ramona Thomas. Ramona will introduce herself shortly. We are also here with our Community and Communications Manager, Shweta Vikram, who is an international best-selling author, and so we have a special treat for you all. Next slide, please. My Money Workshop is a nonprofit that seeks to educate people to manage their finances and to make a lifetime of informed decisions. Please note that any of the information shared today is for educational purposes and is not intended to be or should be considered advice as with respect to your personal finances. To date, My Money Workshop has, with the help of expert volunteer instructors, has supported over 20,000 participants at over 1,000 workshops. We receive funding from individuals, foundations, and corporations, and we partner with local schools and nonprofits to deliver our programs. Our participants range in age from 13 all the way to adults into retirement. And you can learn more about the work that we do at mymoneyworkshop.org. I do want to take a minute today to thank the other volunteers and clients, participants, and our donors who are joining us tonight. My Money Workshop could not be successful without your partnership and your investment in our mission. So thank you for joining us. The impetus for this event came from an article I read early on in the pandemic that said that 4 million of the jobs lost at the very beginning were jobs that had been held by women, and that women are the highest population leaving the job force right now. And so we know that with all this comes a sense of insecurity and a lack of confidence in managing your finances. And that's why we're bringing this event to you all, so that we can have a very engaging conversation around the issues that pertain to women and finances, and that women can begin to regain their confidence in managing their financial vision. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Ramona.
Thank you, Janeda, so much. It's really great to be here. Before we jump into our first poll, just a little bit about me. I am Ramona Thomas. I'm actually a financial advisor. So I work with people, families, individuals, organizations every day around their finances. I really do everything from comprehensive financial planning, investment advice, but essentially what I do is I help people feel empowered about their money so they can live their lives the way that they want to. I would say about 80% of the people that I work with are women. So most of my clients are women. And one of the things that they say to me about working with me is that I create a space where they feel safe and they don't feel guilt or shame around financial decisions that they've made. And so I would like to create that space tonight. If you have questions, things that you want to share that resonate with you, with some of the information that we're going to share tonight, like we want this space to feel safe, where you leave feeling empowered and more confident about your financial situation. So I just kind of want to put that out there. I'll reiterate that throughout our session tonight. But we wanted to kind of kick off and just kind of get a sense of how confident are you in managing your finances. I work with a lot of women who don't have confidence around money, and it's not that they're terrible with money. They feel like they don't have enough information or enough knowledge. They second guess their decisions. And so before we start going into some of the content, it'd be great to know, of those of you who are on the line, how confident are you in managing your finances?
Okay.
So the poll should be up.
Okay. 1. Oh.
I just hit the poll.
Okay. Apologies. Are people able to see the slides? You can either raise your hand or send a message in the chat and let me know if you are able to see. Okay.
I see a yes.
Okay, great. Got it. If some of you cannot see your slides, please check to see if you are looking at presenter view. Okay, we're all good. And Marisol, were you able to get that poll up?
Hit polling and it popped up, but then it disappeared. Can I try it again?
Try it again.
Okay, I'm trying it right now. So I see it on my end. But I think it's poll number 1. Does everyone see it?
No.
Okay, wait, here we go.
How about now? There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll give a couple of seconds to for everyone to fill out this poll, and we'll share the results in a second.
We're already up to 12 of 18.
Okay, maybe I'll give it one more second. Is that a good?
Lucky 13.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Go ahead and share the results.
Okay. That's good to know. So for those of you who put, I'm glad no one put not at all confident. So for the somewhat confident, a lot of the content is for you. For those who are confident or extremely confident, hopefully there are a couple of tips or tools and strategies that you'll take away from this so you can feel even more confident about your managing your finances moving forward, especially during the pandemic. There's just so much uncertainty that's going on right now, with the election results, with the ongoing pandemic and sort of this cry about the second wave, and then just everything we're hearing about in the economy. We want you to leave feeling like you have some really great tools and tips to feel more confident in how you manage your finances. If we could go to the next slide. So tonight, we're going to go, yep, thank you. So tonight we're going to talk about money mindset, and we're going to start there because it's just so important in terms of how we look at everything else around our finances. We're going to talk about, do you have a plan, and is it emergency proof? We'll talk about budgeting and cash flow, which is really important for those of you who are in the somewhat confident category. And as we think about what's happening in the environment we're living in, budgeting and cash flow are going to be really important. So we'll talk about that. We're talking about being a good steward for yourself and your finances and what that means, strategies that you can make. And then we do have a list of resources, different books and links that we hope you will find helpful moving forward. If you could go to the next slide. So we wanted to start with the data here that 72% of people in this country report feeling stressed about money. So for those of you that, again, said you were somewhat confident about managing your finances, that's a lot of people. That's over 7 out of 10 people who feel stressed about money. And more than half of working women, so these are women who work, and these statistics are all pre-COVID. So I would imagine that these numbers are probably higher. These statistics are probably higher if we surveyed folks during the pandemic. But before the pandemic, more than half of working women worried about their finances. And so that we wanted to put these statistics up so that you don't feel alone. If you're stressed about money or you're worried about your finances, we want you to know that you're not alone, that there are a lot of people out there who feel that way and a lot of women who feel that way. And the key here is that money, for those of you who don't know, maybe you feel like it's only you, money is actually the top cause of stress among people in this country. And we can go to the next slide. So we had another poll for you, but we can just skip the poll and just share with you that 63% of women feel like they don't earn enough to save. So the question that we had for you was, do you feel like you have enough money to save at the end of the month after you pay all of your bills? And what the data show that 63% of women feel like they don't. They really don't feel like they have enough money to save. I see that the poll did pop up if you guys want to answer that. Yep. That's awesome. We could close the poll. So we're about half. About half of you said, hey, yeah, I do feel like I have enough money to save. I hope you are saving. But half of you said, no, I don't earn enough to save anything, at the end of the month. And so saving is really important. The key here is that for those people who don't feel like they don't earn enough to save, we're going to talk about hopefully some strategies that can help you feel better or start finding ways that you can save money. If we can go to the next slide. So I wanted to start around mindset. And I don't know how many of you think about, when you think about money, are you thinking about your mindset intentionally? Are you thinking about money in a negative or stressful way? I don't have enough. It's never enough. I'm not good with money. It never really does what I need it to do. But a money mindset is really about your beliefs and your attitude about money. And for a lot of us, that starts when we're kids. That starts in the household where we grew up, what we were taught or not taught about money, what the conversations in our homes were about money. And some of that really stays with us when we grow up we kind of inherit either our parents or our families' experiences with money. So if you think about a money mindset as your beliefs, do you have a scarcity mindset that it's never going to be enough? I work hard, the money just goes down the drain. Do you have an attitude that when it's time to pay bills, like you hate it, right? Like, oh my gosh, I just really hate dealing with money. Maybe it's not that extreme, but I want you to think about, when you're thinking about money and you're thinking about your finances, what is your mindset? What are your beliefs? Are you carrying beliefs from your parents, from your siblings, from your grandparents that you don't even know that you use and that you implement every day? Because your money mindset, or your mindset around money, it really drives your financial decisions every day about saving. So that poll about whether or not you have enough money to save at the end of the month, your mindset drives your decisions about spending. Hey, I'm not going to live forever. You only have today. Tomorrow's not promised. I'm going to spend everything I make. I know people like that. I mean, I try to change their minds after they work with me to not have that mindset. But yeah, I mean, it influences how you spend, and it also influences how you manage money. So when you're thinking about money, after tonight, think about your mindset. Are you like this woman in the picture, where it's raining? She has her raincoat on, but she's still happy. She's smiling. You can tell her face is made up. She doesn't have the doom and gloom around money, because your mindset really has a big impact on your ability to achieve your goals. For those of you who have a stressed or a negative mindset around money, I want you to think about that, because when you change your mindset and you're intentional about it, people tend to make better choices. They tend to make better money decisions, and they tend to feel better about the decisions that they're making about their money. So There are a couple of steps that we can take if we go to the next slide. If you think, hey, maybe my mindset really isn't the way that it should be around money. There are a couple of steps that we hope that you take away after tonight, that when you start feeling stressed about not having enough or not being able to pay your bills, or just, wanting to save and do more for whatever your financial goals are, that you can think about your mindset. The first is acknowledge what's stressing you, right? So we had the poll and the statistic earlier, about 72% of Americans, that's men and women, who report feeling stressed about money. So acknowledge that you're stressed. If you've been furloughed or you've been let go, or even for people who are working, I know people who still have jobs, but who have job insecurity, right? You don't know if you're going to get let go at the end of the year. Is the company going to close or stay open or do another round of layoffs? So be really clear about what's stressing you out. If you're unemployed, is it not having enough money to pay the bills? Maybe you're not earning enough. Maybe your expenses are just too high. If you're in a mortgage that you feel like that's really drowning you, or a situation like that, credit card debt, student loans. I work with a number of clients where the student loans are really just crippling people. And this is like nationwide, where student loans are really crippling people from achieving their goals. So acknowledge what's stressing you, be clear about it. The second thing is really try to reframe your thoughts. Well, Ramona, how can I reframe my thoughts around stress, right? If there really isn't enough money for me to pay my rent, if I'm looking for a job and I'm now in my 6th month, I've been unemployed for most of the pandemic. Control your thoughts and feelings around money, and that can help you change your reality. So acknowledge the stress and really think about, what am I thinking about money? How am I feeling about money? And when you're mindful about that, with your reality, you can start to turn that around. Okay, yeah, I've been looking for a job for 6 months, but that means I'm, 6 months closer to finding my job. Like, try to start thinking positive thoughts about your money, thinking about your situation moving forward. The other thing is having very specific goals. So when it talks about taking action, that third bullet point, be really clear. I'm always amazed when I talk to people that they don't have money goals. They don't have financial goals. Being wealthy is that's a great goal, but be really specific about what you want to do with your wealth. So have very specific goals, and that can help you really take action and have very clear action steps about what you want to do in your life and what you want to accomplish financially. So as we talk about mindset, I'm actually going to take a pause here, and I'm going to turn it over to Sweta. If we can go to the next slide, I'm going to let Sweta introduce herself, because she's going to give us some greater tips and help us really shift our mindset, at least for the rest of our time together, so that we can think more positively and have like an abundance mindset, so that we can do the things that we want to do financially. So Sweta, if you can take it over from here.
Thank you so much, Ramona. I feel like I'm just absorbing everything like a sponge. So thank you for sharing and bringing your wisdom to my money workshop. A very good evening to everyone who's joined us today. We really appreciate your presence. Um, I was listening to what Janita had to say, and then Ramona, and while all of this is such pertinent, profound, and absolutely necessary information, notice when you hear money, when you hear pandemic, when you hear job losses, when you think of your future, how do you feel in your body? Again, these are actionable items, and Ramona is going to be sharing more wisdom with us, and we'll walk out with actionable steps, I'm hoping. Is that fair to say, Ramona?
Yes.
Yes. So, but like, it's amazing information, but we also need to sort of center ourselves to figure out how can we change a mindset around money, or how do we absorb this information, and how do we sit with this information. So for now, if you're wearing glasses, reading glasses like mine, or just glasses, whatever have you, I invite you to just take them off and put them on the side, right? um, and just close your eyes for a second. Don't manipulate your breathing, don't manipulate your thinking. Notice how you feel the minute we say the word money. Just notice in your body how that feels. Savings, finance, security, pandemic. I'm not trying to create a morbid environment here, just want us all to better understand how these words resonate with us on a deeper level. When I said these words out loud, I realized my breathing changed, the pace of it. So it's important to acknowledge the discomfort that we are in this year more than any other time. Um, so once we acknowledge, it's so much easier to work with the information that Ramona shares with us today. So for now, I'll again invite you. It's a bit of a nippy day outside to just rub your palms together and just place them over your eyes. You know, the same eyes that stare at the screen, they're glued to the news, to the phone, to the tablet, laptop, whatever have you. We're just sending some good energy, which is lowering our anxiety around everything that we're talking about today. And once you remove your palm, the choice is yours whether you want to keep your eyes closed or if you want to keep your eyes open. But I invite you to just make either like a shape like this, or you can place both of your palms over your belly button. So left hand over the right or right hand over the left. The other option is one hand over your heart, the other hand on your belly. It doesn't matter which hand, which order, right? Now I invite you to take a deep breath. Imagine you've eaten like a big
Like
buffet
a big
all
buffet
the time,
all the time,
right?
right?
And your belly
And
is
your belly is
bigger,
bigger,
and you're
and
pressing
you're
your belly
pressing your
against your
belly.
palm. That's inhaling through your nose. Now, when you exhale, let your belly button, it's like all the air is out and it's touching your spine. And we want to go at a slow pace. So inhale, big belly again. Exhale, let your belly button touch the spine. Inhale. We'll do this a few more times and I'll explain why we're doing this. I always think of this as the Buddha belly, big belly. And exhale. And you're doing your inhalation and exhalation through your nose with your mouth closed. Two more of these. Inhale, big belly. Exhale. You might feel a little tingling in your palm, and that's fine. Inhale, last one. Exhale. And now just breathe naturally, normally, without manipulating your breath. The reason we did this big, deep belly breathing is because it helps us tap into a parasympathetic nervous system. What does that mean? We are constantly in a state of fight or flight. So I got to do this. I should have done that yesterday. I need to get a job. I should have had a job yesterday. I don't know my finances. This is creating anxiety. What do I do with the pandemic? What this deep breathing does, it relaxes us. It lowers our anxiety. It relaxes our nervous system. So the minute you feel anxious, this is a good practice to start with. And obviously, you talk to your healthcare practitioner and whoever you're speaking with, but this is a great place to start with the whole deep breathing, just because it relaxes us completely. So even when Ramona is talking about, sharing different nuggets of wisdom, and you feel like, oh, I don't have my stuff under control. I don't know how to handle money. Just try to go to this place. It's a safe space and it's your body that's empowering you, right? Is just your breath. Notice how babies sleep. Notice how dogs sleep. This is how they breathe. It's the big belly that comes up, it comes down. And as we get older, as adults, our lives get convoluted. We start to overthink and we start breathing from the chest. So, chest breathing is shallow. So, when you're not doing the deep breathing, notice how you breathe. In all likelihood, it's from the chest and it's very shallow. And science tells us it's the quality of the breath that impacts the quality of our health. So, any information that you get, once you have your breath under your control, you address it from a place of understanding instead of reaction. So, it's not like, I don't know how to deal with my finance. It's like, yeah, I don't know. And Ramona here will help us to leave with some actionable steps today. right? So I invite you again to rub your palms together and don't manipulate your breathing at this time. We'll do a really short meditation. Very often people, when they think meditation, they think, oh my God, I now have to sit quietly in a corner. Oh my God, what happens to my thoughts? I shouldn't have thought of this. But then when you sit down, you think of everything that you weren't thinking about 2 minutes ago. And that's real. We live in a year which is full of anxiety, yeah, uncertainties, and it's unprecedented. And you're not alone, in feeling the way that you're feeling. So this is another tool, hopefully, which equips you, when you feel this unsurmountable amount of stress, like drowning you, just connect with your breath. So I invite you again to just close your eyes. And this time you're not manipulating your breathing. Just breathe naturally, okay? And I invite you to scan your feet, which means your eyes are closed, but you're scanning your feet, your ankles. Notice if anything hurts, if anything feels good. Some people have like swollen feet, so pay attention to that, right? Start scanning your calves, then your knees. Start scanning your upper thighs, your hips. Take a deep breath here. Women, especially, tend to hold a lot of stress in the hips. So take a couple of deep breaths and let it out. So you're letting your stress out. And now start to scan your belly button, your belly, your diaphragm, your chest, your ribs, coming up to your shoulders. I invite you to gently rotate your neck. So you're tilting your head to your left side, bringing it gently back, then bringing it to the right side, and your head is in a neutral position. Now we go the opposite way. Turn to your right, and we're doing very gentle, intentional movement. Any stress, again, neck and shoulders are other places where we tend to hold a lot of stress. Gently bring your head back to your neutral position. Now scan your neck, your shoulders, your chin, your mouth, your nose, your eyes, your ears, and the top of your head. This too is meditation. You kept scanning, but you didn't tell your brain thoughts are not invited because that's unreal, right? So just notice what's going on in your mind. Is your anxiety slightly lesser? Are your worries and concern a little bit lower than when we started? And do you feel, can you tap into deep breathing every time you feel, oh, how am I going to do this, as a starting point, and then go ahead with, however you handle stress generally. And then when you're ready, gently open your eyes and just thank yourself for being here, for taking care of yourself, for your willingness to learn more about how to manage your money. Thank you for sharing your practice with me.
Wow, Sweta, that was amazing. I'll just share this before we jump right on next into the content. I talk about money all day with clients. I talk about the pandemic, and I didn't realize that even when I'm talking with or about clients, that I'm still using those words. And I felt it in my body, and I'm not aware of that throughout the day because I'm doing it all day. So I'm going to make sure I start taking time to do some of the breathing that you shared. So thank you so much for helping us refocus our energy away from stress and scarcity to a place of calm and peace and strength. Really appreciate it. So if we can go to the next slide. Now we're ready to tackle what we came to do. Now that we're shifting our money mindset, we're going to talk about one aspect you can take some control over to gain more confidence, and that's around budgeting. I'm going to ask you guys if you're comfortable sharing, it's great. You can drop it in the chat. How many of you have a budget? Before we go into the nuts and bolts of the budget, we do have another quick poll for you. And again, we're doing the polls because we really want it to be engaging and interactive. If we could pull up that next poll. How many of you run out of money before payday? So we can end the poll. We have a really interesting mix. A few said yes, a few said no, and some said sometimes. And if we go to the next slide, we can see that that is, it's not uncommon. There 34% of women, again, we're focused on women tonight, run out of money before payday. So that's 1 out of 3 women. So if you're one of the women who said, no, I don't run out of money, I'm good, think about 2 of your friends, because 1 of the 2 of your friends probably does run out of money before payday comes up. And so one of the things that budgeting can do is to help you keep better track of your budget. So for those of you that keep a budget, we're going to talk about some levers and things that you can do to really tighten it up. For those of you that don't keep a budget, that's going to be your first homework assignment, is for you to start thinking about ways that you can keep a budget. So if we can go to the next slide. Budgeting is a really important part of your personal finance, but a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people don't do it. Either they don't know how, they feel like it's more complicated than it really needs to be. One key to your managing your budget is knowing how much money is coming in. That's a really key critical part. What is your income? Whether you work full-time, part-time, run a business, have a side hustle, you do whatever it is that you do that's generating money, honestly, being really clear about what that is and knowing how much that is. The second part of your budget is your expenses. What are you spending? And this is where people get tripped up. Either people who don't keep a budget end up spending more money than what they bring in, and they wonder why the money's running out. Or if they do keep a budget, they're not tracking their expenses tightly enough to know that they need to be spending less than what they're bringing in. So the key here on your expenses is knowing what you spend every month. And there are 2 types of expenses. One is sort of your fixed, or we call them your essential expenses. These are expenses you need to live every day: your mortgage, your rent, groceries, utilities, cell phones are now essential expenses. If you're working from home, working remotely during the pandemic, Wi-Fi is now an essential expense. The other type of expense are variable expenses, or we call them lifestyle expenses. So these are the things that kind of characterize you as a person or as your family. If you have a family, the things that you love to do that characterize your lifestyle. So maybe you travel. Before the pandemic, you went to sporting events or the theater, or you're a shopper. You really like to shop, you're stylish. Think about hobbies, eating out, gifting. If you're a big gifter, if you donate, these are all things that really contribute to your lifestyle. And what happens is, when you're thinking about budgeting, the key is that you want your income to always be higher than your expenses. So for those of you who say, hey, I run out of money, I'm going to encourage you to take some time, either tonight or over the weekend, and look at your income. What are you bringing in? Even if you're on unemployment, what are you bringing in? And then what are your expenses? And if you can break them out into those 2 categories, the fixed expenses, these you can't change, right? You're in a lease, you're in a mortgage, you need electricity, you need to eat. Being clear about what those are, but then also thinking about what are your flexible expenses, the shopping, maybe commuting, you're not commuting if you're working from home, thinking about things that you can adjust, because your lifestyle or your variable expenses, these are the ones that tend to expand when you make more money. right? So you make more money, you do more things, you spend more money. But there are also the things that can shrink. So if your income is shrinking, your lifestyle expenses, you can shrink. And again, it doesn't have to be forever. It's just temporary until you get to a point where you can continue to do those things that you enjoy doing. So the key to budgeting is you want to ensure that your income, what you bring in, covers your expenses. This is your cash flow. And I'm going to talk about cash flow a little bit more in a second, but your cash flow can be positive. So for those of you who said, no, I don't run out of money, I have money at the end of the month to save or at the end of my paycheck to save, you guys are cash flow positive, which means that you're in the black, right? You spend less than what you bring in. For those of you who are running out of money, you're not making enough money, your expenses are more than your income, you are cash flow negative, and you may be figuring out, who do I pay, right? Or maybe I'm only going to do a minimum payment on my credit card. I'm going to pay this month and that next month, because you're trying to figure out how to pay the things that you need to pay. In terms of budgeting, there aren't any hard and fast rules. Typically, you'll hear, if you Google, you'll get different percentages. You'll see a person. We often use a formula. 25% of your income goes to taxes. That depends on how much you make. In terms of your tax bracket, 20% goes to savings. I know people who don't save 20%, but they maybe give 10% away, to church or to organizations that they believe in, and then they save some. Think about 20% going to debt. And that, again, is going to depend on your debt ratio. For people who have a lot of student loans or credit card debt, you might be allocating more of your paycheck to debt. And then you want to spend 35% on your lifestyle expenses. So again, that formula doesn't work for everyone. 25% taxes, 20% savings, 20% on debt, and 35% on lifestyle. If you don't have any debt, then you have an extra 20% that you can save or do something else with. So, but the key is, you want to be able to have some percentages. You want to have a guide, right? So if you're making $60,000 a year, you want to have a guide. Once those taxes come out, the IRS gets their money. How are you portioning out the rest of it? And your budget will allow you to do that. You can go as low tech or as high tech as you want. Again, the key is to do it. Don't get paralyzed by, using an app. If you're tech savvy and you like using apps, I know Mint has one. There are a number of free apps you can use for budgeting. If you want to use something on your computer, Quicken. For those of you who are not tech savvy, or, just want to have something else, use a pen and paper. A piece of paper and a pen is really simple. I bring in this on one side, list your expenses on the other, use a calculator, and see where your numbers are. The key is to do it, to get started. If we go to the next slide, once you create your budget, you want to use it and you want to review it regularly. Don't create it, let it get dust, put it in the desk drawer. You want to look at your budget monthly. Look at your as you look at your credit card statements, your bank statements, look at your budget. Are you spending what you thought you would spend? Are you over or less? Are you bringing in, if you're an hourly employee and you get paid based on hours, are you bringing in what you anticipated? And are you adjusting your expenses to the extent that you can? I know not everyone can adjust all of their expenses. You can't go to your landlord and just say, hey, I only want to pay $100 rent because, that's all I have this month. But to the extent that you can adjust your expenses, you want to be able to do that. So I want to talk a little bit more about cash flow, because cash flow is so critical. If any of you are entrepreneurs, you run a small business, or you're thinking about running a small business, cash flow is really important. You'll hear cash is king, and this is true in your personal finance too. When we were preparing for this event, we really love this slide because it really communicates a number of different things. When you hear, oh man, that was money down the drain, right? You look at the money coming out of the faucet, it's going into this gold bag. That gold bag could be the drain, right? Or it could be that, your cash flow is so strong and it's so positive, you have this bag full of money that you're saving or that you're investing. But the key is that there are some levers that you can pull, that you can control around your cash flow. So there are typically two ways that you can control your cash flow. One is increase your income. And that's not, I realize we're in a pandemic. Ganita's shared those statistics earlier about the number of women leaving the workforce. We hear the numbers every night on the news about people who've been furloughed, companies filing bankruptcy, people unemployed, industries that have been devastated, entertainment, travel, hospitality. So I know it's not as that simple to say, hey, I'm going to increase my income. But if you're still working, if you're collecting unemployment, if you're looking for a job, if you're taking on a part-time job, there are two levers that you can pull to affect your cash flow. One is bringing more income. Well, Ramona, how can I do that? If you've been furloughed or let go and you're looking for a job, it's a great time to explore your options. There are companies that are hiring. Look out there at Indeed and LinkedIn and other job boards. There are companies that are hiring. So this may be a good time for a career change or industry change. If it's something you've been wanting to do, develop your skills, it's a great time while we're still in a virtual environment to get certified, right? Maybe get a tech certificate or something like that, where you can gain a skill to make you more employable so that you can have again a little, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So I always think it's great to have multiple revenue streams, when you can. It's always great, to have a little side hustle. If you have a skill or a talent, if you knit, if you sew, if you are into fashion, or you make a product, or you have a great service, if you're great at editing, there are always people looking for editors, things like that. So think about things that you can do that you're good at, that you may be able to do from home, and put that to work or put that to practices if you can. The other is consider a part-time job. And I am one of those people that an honest living is an honest living. So there's nothing wrong with working at Walmart or Amazon. No matter how much education you have, I'm one of those people, and I learned this from my mom, you do whatever it is that you need to do to take care of yourself and take care of your family. And again, it's not forever. The pandemic is not going to last forever. So do the things that you need to do. If that means taking on a part-time job, I would encourage you to do that. Look at a side hustle. And now there are websites for that, right? People are using Instagram and social media to sell their products and services. Etsy went public because of, that became a website where people were selling their products, and it's now a public company. So there are definitely vehicles out there for you to be able to take on a side hustle and bring in some more income if you can. Think about what you're good at. We talked about, our skills, and we have a positive mindset. Every person on this webinar, everybody watching on Facebook, whether you're watching live or later, you have a gift, you have a skill. There's nothing wrong with monetizing that. There isn't. So think about ways that you can do that. Be creative. Look at your interests. If you're a writer, a tutor. I went early in the pandemic, there were so many parents that were struggling. And I remember talking to a woman who was a personal stylist, and she was going to actually do some virtual babysitting for some friends who just needed to get work done. So she was going to get on Zoom for an hour with their kids and go through the kids' closet. So maybe there's a virtual babysitting business or virtual storytelling business. We've been hearing all these different ways that people have gotten really creative. So I would encourage you to do that. So increasing your income is one way to adjust your cash flow. It's a little more challenging, but it's not impossible. It's possible. I have a really good friend who always says, if you break the word impossible and you sound it out differently, it says, I'm possible. So as you think about your gifts, as you think about ways that you can generate income, think I'm possible, not impossible. Okay. Now, the other lever that you can pull, you have a lot more control over, and that is your expenses. I talked a little bit about this with your lifestyle and your essential expenses. This is a key, especially in the pandemic. If you're tight for money, look at what you can cut. This is what you have the most control over. So look at places where you can decrease your spending, and or if your spending has changed during the pandemic. So if you're not commuting, I have a number of clients that, hey, Ramona, I'm saving a lot more money because when I commuted into the city, I was buying my coffee every day. I was buying lunch. I was eating out, doing happy hour once or twice a week. And now I'm actually saving all that money because because I'm not commuting in the city. We're cooking more at home. So think about ways that if you're working and you're not commuting, can you redirect that money towards your student loans or towards your credit card? Or for those of you who don't have enough money to save, can you redirect some of that money that you used for your Starbucks, your Metro card? Is there a way that you can redirect that and start saving? Look at what you're using at home. Do you need the highest internet? Do you need all the streaming services? We're working at home, so do you need new clothes right now? Right? Think about ways that you can make some changes. And again, if you really love shopping and you love style, I'm not saying don't buy clothes, but if you're tight for money and you have a stylish wardrobe, do you really need to add to it right now when people are only seeing from the neck up or the chest up? Just sort of think about ways that you can really kind of cut your expenses, gym memberships, subscriptions. Look for discounts, look for coupons. Right now, a lot of the places have where you can get the coupons right on your phone. You don't even have to clip them anymore. Like when I was a kid, you can just scan your phone. So look at ways where there are membership rewards or discounts or coupons, ways that you can save money, particularly on groceries. A lot of us are, cooking more at home. If you have a credit card, think about ways that you can kind of generate rewards from your credit cards. So, think about ways, if you have insurance, ways that you can cut your insurance, your renter's insurance, especially your auto insurance, because you're not driving as much. So when you think about cash flow, ways that you can increase your cash flow, generate more income, cut your expenses. So I'm going to stop there on that. We're going to go to our next slide. Many of you have heard, the importance of having a rainy day fund, right? You've heard it from your mom or your grandmom. Hey, you want to have a nest egg because you just never know, right? What's going to happen. And rainy days really do come. And when I work with a lot of clients, we often talk about having an emergency fund, and people think the worst, right? A car accident, the roof caves in. No one thinks pandemic. No one thinks pandemic. And so the key here is you do want to be able to save for a rainy day. And that's where that poll question about saving was really important. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But the important statistics here are that 44% of Americans, this is men and women, don't have enough money to cover a $400 emergency. So you need a set of tires. The stove breaks down. The refrigerator is on its last leg. It's not making, it's not keeping the stuff in the freezer anymore. 44% of Americans don't have $400. Don't have $400 in case of an emergency. So if you are one of those Americans, we're going to talk about for the importance of building an emergency fund. And again, no one thinks of pandemic, but the key is to have a reserve. You want to be able to have something to tap into so that you can continue to live, you can continue to pay your bills and not feel that stress that we were talking about earlier. 41% of women, that's 2 out of 5 women, have less than $500 in their checking account. If you are one of those women, that's okay. We're realizing now that it's important to have a rainy day fund. And I'll share a personal story. My mom is a senior. She's retired. She's like, I spend all my money as I get it. And she knows I work with. She knows I'm an advisor. I work with clients all the time. And, we've been talking. She's like, you know what? I do realize I need to save. But her thought was, hey, I'm a senior. I have more years behind me than in front of me. I'm going to spend my money. I'm going to enjoy my life and do all the things that I want. And she's thinking, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to go on. It doesn't hurt to have a rainy day fund. So for those of you that don't have one, that's homework number 2. I hope you've been keeping track. Homework number 1 is you're going to create a budget. If you have a budget, you're going to start monitoring. If you don't have a budget, you're going to create it and start monitoring. For those of you who save, look at what you're saving. Can you save more? Do you have an emergency fund? And I'm going to talk about that next. For those of you that aren't saving, we're going to give you some tips for saving. If we go to the next slide, we're going to talk about the importance of saving right now. And this is about being a good steward for yourself and for your finances. If you have children, if you have a family, some people think of it as I'm going to pay myself first, right? The IRS comes right off the top, they get their taxes, right? Think about how can you pay yourself first? You're working, you work really hard for what you earn. Think about ways that you can save. And when we went through that formula earlier about the 20% savings, maybe you can't start with 20%. And I say this to people all the time, start somewhere. People think, oh, I'm going to wait till I get my bonus. I'm going to wait till I get my stimulus check. Don't wait. Start with $5 a week, because here's the important things about saving. We have a lot of spending habits as people. Like, we have habits on how we spend money. It's a lot harder to create those habits on saving money. So here's an important reason why you should have and why you should be saving. You can start in a jar, you can start in an envelope, you can start wherever. You can start with a bank account, a savings account. The key is you want to have an emergency fund. I recommend 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. And when I recommend this to clients, they don't get it at first because it sounds like a lot of money. If your monthly expenses are $4,000, your rent, your car note, everything that you pay, your student loans, if you've been furloughed and you had an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months, that would carry over until you get that next job. That makes that 3 to 6 months in between gigs, in between jobs, a lot easier, because you know that you have those expenses. So when you're thinking about an emergency fund, you want to look at what you spend per month for everything. And then you want to multiply that by 3. That gives you a 3-month nest egg. If I've been recommending 9 to 12 months, if that feels like a lot, start with 3 and then work your way up to 6. So you want to have an emergency fund. No one thinks pandemic. Everyone thinks the worst, job loss, car accident, things like that. So the key is you want to have an emergency fund. Something happens, at least you can pay your expenses, right? And the good thing is you don't want to have to need it. But if you need it, it's there. It's like insurance. You never want to need life insurance, because that means you're no longer here. You never want to need your car insurance, because that means you had an accident. But if you have an accident, then it's really great to know that that insurance is going to step in and help, get your car fixed. Your emergency fund is the same way. You don't want to get laid off. You don't want to get furloughed. You don't want your refrigerator to go out. But darn it, if it does, it's great to know that you have, a reserve that you can go and get your new refrigerator. I talked about this earlier about saving. Save regularly. Just like you pay bills every paycheck, pay yourself. And if you can't start with 10%, start with 5%. If you can't start with 5%, start with 2%. Start with something. Start with $5 a week for 1 month, work your way up to $10 a paycheck the next month. But the key is you want to create habits where you are saving regularly. Every pay period, pay yourself. The guidelines I went through earlier was 20%, but again, if you can't start there, start with what you can. And we actually have in one of the resources a savings challenge, a 52-week savings challenge. It's a great way to start saving. The other is set milestones. Again, those things that get measured get done. So have a goal, track your goal, make sure it's measurable. I want to save $2,000 this year. I want to save $1,000 a month this year. Don't wait until 2021. I'm not really big on resolutions. I'm big on now. So if saving is a goal, if it's something that you don't feel like you've done well at, start this month. This month we just started. What can you save this month? Can you save $25? Can you save $50? Think about that. So I want you to get excited about saving in the way that you get excited about buying whatever it is that you enjoy buying, eating out, buying shoes, shopping on Amazon, going grocery shopping. Get excited about that, because over time, for those of you who've struggled saving, you're going to see it build up. You're going to see that 100 go to 200, that 200 go to 400, that 400 go to 800. It may not go as fast as you want it to go, but it will grow. If we can go to the next slide, and I know we're at time, we've talked about having a money mindset, creating and managing a budget, how to turn those levers in your cash flow, and the importance of saving. For those of you who are on, we want to know what's at least one action. We want you to claim your power, feel more confidence in your managing your money. What's one action that we talked about tonight that you are committed to doing to be more empowered over your finances? If we could put that poll up. Tell us what's the one, and you can put more than one item. What's the one thing that you are committed to doing after this webinar to take more control over your finances? Awesome. We can end the poll. I will track my expenses. Woohoo! That's going to affect your cash flow. And I appreciate those of you that said, I'm going to create a budget. I'm going to set some financial goals. I'm going to be careful with my credit cards. We didn't talk about debt or debt management, but I appreciate that you guys are really thinking about these. And the key is to start doing it. If we can go to the next slide. So we put together a link with some financial resources, some books, and links that will be really helpful to you. For those of you who say, hey, I'm not sure that I can buy the books, remember that the public libraries are still open and still available. So we want you to think about ways that you can access those books and access those resources for free. That will help you, give you more information and continue to feel more empowered around managing your money. So we have a library, and I believe that that link is in the chat, and that it'll also be in the thank you email. So if we can go to our next slide, we are near the end. You can follow My Money Workshop on social. There are a bunch of resources on the mymoneyworkshop.org website, including pre-recorded videos. And we hope that you will visit our library for more information. And then we're going to take some time for Q&A. If we have any. I know we are at time, and I apologize, but I hope that this was really helpful to people. If we can go to the next slide, we do want to make sure that if there are questions, yep, thank you for dropping that in the chat, Desiree, about the digital library card for ebooks. And all those ebooks, those books on our resource list should be books that you can get electronically. Are there any questions about anything that we talked about tonight that people would like me to answer or address?
I don't see any in the chat right now, but we do have Leslie, you have a question. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Night, everyone. Hi, Ramona.
Hi,
My
Leslie.
question is, thank you. My question is high yield savings accounts. So I know I've been trying to save, and in the past I've seen the rates better. I haven't checked recently, but I've heard that the rates are very low, which has made me shy away from opening a high yield savings account. What is your advice on that, since I know saving is something that I should do no matter what after hearing you tonight?
You're absolutely right. Because of the economy that we're in right now, interest rates are really low. It's great if you're getting a mortgage. It's terrible if you're saving money, right? So where we used to see higher interest rates, they are really low. I will say the higher yield or the high yield savings account are going to be higher than what you see at your local bank, at your local commercial bank. So American Express, I know, has a high yield savings account that may be around 1.9. I haven't checked it lately, but you're probably going to see higher rates with those than you're going to see at your local bank. So I would encourage you to do that, just again to get in the habit of savings. And again, those rates will be higher than your commercial bank or your local bank. And then also look at savings banks like Apple Bank. A savings bank will tend to have higher rates than your typical commercial bank.
Of course, yes. I know commercial banks are like the worst, to do open a savings account.
They are.
You said Apple Bank. So would you suggest, I don't think you would suggest this, but is it a bad idea if I would wait to see if the interest rates go lower? Or a better question actually is, if let's say I open like an account now and I see the interest rates go up in a year or two. I don't know how much the commitment is for certain accounts. I think it's a year or 6 months. Does it automatically change, or would I have to apply if I see a better rate somewhere else?
So typically with banks, there's no commitment. You can open and close a checking or savings account anytime you want, even the high yield ones. So if you open one today and in 3 months you see a better high yield savings account, you can just move your money right over there. I would not encourage you to wait. If savings is a goal and it's something you need to do, I say save with the highest interest rate account you can find today. And then just every so often, just keep track of what else is out there. But I don't want you to delay your goal of saving just because the interest rates are low, because I want you to create that habit, that mindset of saving.
Of course. Okay. Thank you, Ramona. I'm
My
here with
pleasure.
the job skills training program from WEI. So I appreciate the opportunity to come in tonight. Thank you.
My
Great.
pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us and for asking that question, Leslie. Is there, we do know we're a few minutes running a few minutes late, but if anyone has one other question or wants to make another comment, we're happy to do that.
Hi everyone, my name is Isha. Hi Ramona. It was
Hi, Isha.
nice speaking. I have my notes here. I took very helpful notes. And my question is on retirement plans. What are your thoughts on retirement plans and saving for retirement? And
So
what's
I'm
your on doing that
at this time? What's my thought about doing that at this time? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm a financial advisor. Saving for retirement is very important. Unfortunately, I work with a lot of people who don't do it, and then they get closer to retirement. They're trying to figure out what to do. So I am all about saving for any goal and making sure that we didn't talk about investing, but investing for retirement is really important. I will tell you this, the years go really quick. It's hard to think about when you're in your 20s and 30s because you think you have your whole, it's 30 years away. That's forever. Trust me. Those years go really fast. So I am a proponent for saving for retirement and having a retirement plan. There are a lot of options out there. I wouldn't be able to go touch in on any of those tonight, but I would say if it's something you've been thinking about, it's something you should do. Absolutely. And if you have the option to do that through your employer and they match, definitely do that because it's free money. So if you work for an employer that will match your contributions 3%, 5%, that's free money. Never leave free money on the table.
Great. Thank you so much, Ramona, and everyone for asking your questions. If you do have additional questions, you can reach out to me, Janeda at mymoneyworkshop.org, and or sign up for our one-on-one conversations, a one-on-one conversation with one of our instructors. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. And so you can find that on mymoneyworkshop.org. Thank you so much. We hope that everything that Ramona and Shweta shared tonight can help you just breathe a little easier and know that you have the power to claim a successful financial future. For those of you who are interested in learning how you can help support other programs like this, please visit mymoneyworkshop.org. You can also, if you're interested, join us on our next event on November 12th, which is Holidays on a Budget. So we're going to talk about some creative ways that you can, have some holiday gifts and budget for the holidays. We all know it's a little different this year, and we'll have to be shipping things to families or doing things that we never thought we would. So we want to give you some good tips for doing that. Please follow us on social media and stay in touch. Thank you all for joining tonight. Have a great rest of the evening and hope to see you at future events.
And stay safe, everyone. Thanks again, My Money Workshop.
Thank you, Ramona.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ramona.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thank
night.
you, Ramona. That was fabulous. Are we going to stay on the call, Janeda, for a couple of minutes?
No, if you want, we can connect separately because I have to stop the live. So everyone, thank you who connected on live for us. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a great night.
Good night.